In glaciology, while studying glacial process, erosional and depositional landforms, we studied the difference between ice sheet, ice cap, ice shelf and iceberg. Ice sheets are the extensive deposit of ice, and Antarctica has vast area of ice sheet. As well as in Antarctica continent, there are different ice caps found on the conical mountains or hills. There is also difference between iceberg and ice shelf. Ice shelf is the water frozen at the sea level but having contact with the continental ice. For example, Antarctica continent has covered with thick layer of ice, but that ice extends over the water body surrounding the Antarctica, and it is about 3 or 4 feet thick, and this ice over the water is called ice shelf, while iceberg is its broken part, means when this ice shelf is broken and separated from the continental ice and this ice floats on the oceanic water, that is called iceberg. Iceberg is floating part of ice on water. Here let us take example of Antarctica, which is the largest laboratory of glaciology on our planet Earth. Antarctica is covered completely with the thick layer of ice, mostly winters. In the month of June, there is winter season, but in the month of December, there is summer season. Its cause you might be knowing that in the month of December, when sun is vertical over the Capricorn south hemisphere experiences summer. That's why surrounding ice melts, with the result the outer fringe of Antarctica is being exposed to the sun, and the rocks are visible. Contrary to it, in the month of June, especially on 21st June, when sun is vertical over Tropic of Cancer, the south hemisphere experiences the winter season, with the result the ice sheet over Antarctica expands and sometimes covers the ocean top layer. Thus, in the month of June, the ice shelves develop surrounding the Antarctica. There is very great ice shelf once also asked in civil prelims, that is Ross ice shelf, and in Ross ice shelf there is a volcano Mount Erebus. There is active volcano Mount Erebus. Thus, this is about the Antarctica. Means during summer and winter, the ice line as over the Himalayas, other mountains, snow-covered mountain, shifts, goes up and down. In the same way, here also ice line recedes and progresses. This is about the Antarctica ice shelf and icebergs which float. Now we have to see that during the month of December, means southern summers, the ice shelves are broken and they move surrounding the Antarctica, and their motion is from west to east, as you are seeing here on the map, and this motion is due to ocean water current that is called circum-Antarctica polar current. If you see on the globe, you will see that here it is Antarctica continent located on South Pole, and surrounding it here there is a circum-Antarctica polar current moving from west to east. Why it moves from west to east? why it moves from west to east? You might be knowing its reason. It is due to temperate cyclone of south hemisphere caused by the roaring 40s, frightening 50s and shrieking 60s, and collision of these with the southern polar winds. And this cyclone on its orbit moves from west to east due to surface friction. Although here there is no land continent, even then the water body gets motion from west to east. Thus, this is the impact of circumantarctica polar current, which causes motion of the icebergs which are released from the South Antarctica continent. And when these icebergs start moving in north direction, they have some target to hit the capes of the continents. And if you see, most of the continents have their base in north and their apex or cone in the south. That's why a number of capes face southward. For example, in South America, Cape Horn, Cape Froward. In South Africa, Cape Agulhas, Cape of Good Hope. In India, Cape Comorin. And in Australia, Western Cape, Southern Cape. Likewise, Madagascar, New Zealand, all these have capes facing south. Now, you might be remembering some geographer who postulated a theory that the continents have their base in north and their apex in the south. It was Lothian Green in tetrahedral theory. In his tetrahedral theory, postulated it. But unluckily, these capes are targeted by the icebergs coming from south from the Antarctica. But if God saves, nobody can harm. Means here this iceberg is coming to hit the capes, land, people, boats, although in south hemisphere. But circumantarctica polar current captures these icebergs and makes rotation revolution in the south hemisphere surrounding Antarctica. Thus, these float till they melt into water. Thus, they are not so much harmful. For example, to simplify, if you want to have a visit of the Antarctica continent, which month you will like to be there? I think it will be December month, because in December there is a summer. A very interesting thing that if you want to visit Antarctica, which month you will visit? It will be the month of December, January. Why? Because there it is summer and ice has retreated sufficient back, and when you will reach there, there will be summer season. You can see the ice cover as well as rock exposure, birds, phytoplanktons, zooplanktons, everything will be visible. That's why if you have a glimpse of the data of Antarctica expeditions, you will see most of the expeditions have been there in the month of December and January. Contrary to it, if you have only time to visit that in the month of May and June, and you reach there, then you will see that the ice sheet has extended close to the coastline. And when you will have a visit of Antarctica, certainly you will not enjoy the scenario of Antarctica from the top or from the south pole of Antarctica. Rather, you will like to enjoy the fringe area, and in fringe area the entire land is covered with ice, and ice shelves have extended in the water body up to several hundred feet. And suppose you have to enjoy certainly you will not be here, rather you will be here, standing here and facing not this back land ice shelf, rather you will have your back this side and face here. At the same time, your mobile rings and you receive a message of your success in civil services because at the same time result has been declared. You will jump here due to the jerk caused by jumping this ice that was ice shelf connected physically with the ice sheet of the Antarctica continent will be broken, and now it will become iceberg and it will move northward, and all directions here are north. And here now you are not sitting on a boat, you are not sitting on a ship or train, rather you are sitting on an iceberg, and that iceberg will start floating in the current, that is circumantarctica polar current, till it will melt. Thus, this is the condition of iceberg and ice shelf in Antarctica region, in and around the Antarctica region. And it is Almighty's mercy that the southern lands are safe. Contrary to it, in North Hemisphere there are ice shelves on the continents and icebergs which start radiating from the polar region to the low latitude through the Sea of Labrador, through the North Sea, through the Bering Strait. And here, because there is much density and frequency of ships in North Hemisphere, because most population is there, maximum trade is there, shipping is there, that's why frequently these ships are hit by the icebergs coming from the north. For example, here near Labrador to the east of United States, once a ship Titanic was damaged due to iceberg coming from north. Then why God is not merciful for the North Hemisphere people and does not protect the North Hemisphere people from the danger of icebergs? Its answer may be asked in commission. Then in short you will reply that in the South Hemisphere there is circumantarctica polar current that keeps the icebergs coming from south in motion till they melt. But in North Hemisphere, although there is temperate cyclone, this also moves from west to east at the temperate cyclones of South Hemisphere. Even then, in spite of temperate cyclone, there is no circum-north polar current. Why? Because of the land obstructions and barrier. These are the land, although these generate in the water body, but these are not continuous and these are not so strong because westerlies in North Hemisphere is not so powerful as the westerly in the South Hemisphere in the name of roaring 40s, frightening 50s and shrieking 60s. Thus, these are some facts related with the Antarctica ice shelf and iceberg. Here, related with this, there may be two questions which may be applied pertaining to the ice shelf and iceberg. There is one term, eutrophication. You need its definition, then its cause, and then impact. And like eutrophication, there is also cultural eutrophication, although mechanism and process is the same, but here it is caused by the human activities. It is the impact of pollution, but this simple eutrophication is the impact of natural process. Here in eutrophication, definition is the decrease in the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water. Why it decreases? Suppose here it is Antarctica continent and here it is the ice shelf, means this water, top water of the ocean is in frozen state, and that frozen ice is physically in contact with the ice over the Antarctica continent, maybe in North Hemisphere, Greenland also. Thus, this is ice shelf. And now, why there is question that why does first the bottom water of the ocean does not freeze, convert into ice, why only top water? Its answers may be two. Number one, in the ocean deep water there is high amount of salinity which prohibits the freezing. But the second point here is that the top layer of ocean water is in physical contact with atmosphere. As atmospheric gases cool down, their temperature drops below zero, the water molecules start freezing and first the top layer is frozen. Thus, the lower layer of water loses its physical contact with the atmospheric gases. Then, the atmospheric O2 fails to cross this ice shelf and the lower water has some certain amount of dissolved oxygen. Here there are some phyto and zooplanktons, especially zooplanktons use dissolved oceanic oxygen. For example, suppose it is fish. Fish takes dissolved oxygen, but for a longer duration this ice is frozen there, means on an average for about 6 to 7 months. For that long period this oxygen is not sufficient for these fish animal. That's why if there is shortage of dissolved oxygen, then there is a biological term, biological oxygen demand. Thus, biological oxygen demand among the zooplankton increases, but nobody from no source it is being supplied. That's why here, due to shortage of the dissolved oxygen, the intake of dissolved oxygen decreased in the zooplanktons. In shortage, zooplanktons sometimes die. That's why this is called eutrophication. Thus, you will define what is eutrophication. In short, the decrease in the amount of dissolved oxygen is eutrophication. Why there is decrease? Because of the formation of ice shelf. Then what is cause? Freezing of top layer of water. Then what is its impact? Its impact is death of zooplankton. It means the cause of eutrophication is this, freezing of ice, and impact is this, and this is definition. Thus, eutrophication is a scientific term and used in geography. Where eutrophication will be found in the nature, certainly it will be found in South Hemisphere and North Hemisphere, where the land is ice covered and its surrounding water body has also ice covered. And sometimes where there is cap in the icebergs, through that there is fracture in iceberg, through that fracture or hole the atmospheric CO2 comes in physical contact with the lower water. Thus, the lower water becomes rich in the dissolved oxygen. Knowing this, the fish and other reach here, and this mystery is known to the fishermen. That's why fishermen catch fish here, and fisheries are practiced on large scale here. For example, in South Hemisphere there is fish krill, and it is practiced here, and it is largely being practiced by the North Hemisphere fishermen, Japanese. In the same way, in the North Hemisphere, here fisheries is being practiced by Eskimo, Samoyed, and Yakagir. These tribes, knowing this mystery, make most of such situation, such cracks developed in the icebergs. Now there is one related term, cultural eutrophication. The word cultural very well denotes that it is related with man pertaining to human activities, and eutrophication is the same process of dying the zooplanktons. Suppose there is one water body, maybe river, maybe lake, pond, sea, ocean, and along its bank is located a city, maybe industrial city, mega city, metro city, or any type of city. Certainly, the city will discharge some polluted material, sewage, and other types of pollutants. When it will reach here in the water, that sewage or industrial pollution will reach, and some algae are found there, and that pollution is being absorbed by the algae, and that algae are habituated to absorb the dissolved oxygen. Although algae release oxygen, but some plants and some algae take atmospheric and the oceanic or water of dissolved oxygen. When dissolved oxygen that is meant for the zooplankton, fish or other aquatic animals decreases, then the dissolved oxygen is decreased. Due to decrease of dissolved oxygen, the biological oxygen demand is increased, but there is no any supply because this pollution is continuing. Hence, zooplankton like fish die there. Thus, the death is the last result of cultural eutrophication. That's why if there is short note in any examination, you will first define what is cultural eutrophication, then what are its causes, then what is its impact. In impact, you will say that death of zooplankton in cultural eutrophication as well as death of zooplankton in eutrophication. Thus, if there is question what is eutrophication, then you will say that decrease in the dissolved oxygen is only eutrophication. Its cause may be naturally the freezing of water and culturally the sewage discharge, and impact of both is death of zooplankton. But the eutrophication is the process in which the amount of dissolved oxygen is decreased. This is about the ice shelf and iceberg with reference to especially Antarctica and two related point, eutrophication and cultural eutrophication, which are very much important in general studies. So, after studying Antarctica, you should be aware of one more technical term that is written here, southern oceans. Southern means southern. Southern oceans. Oceans is plural, it is not ocean. Sometimes in atlas it is written that the water body surrounding Antarctica is called the Antarctica Ocean, but it is Antarctica continent, not Antarctica Ocean. But the southern limit of the South Atlantic Ocean is the Antarctica Circle. Southern limit of the Indian Ocean is again Antarctica Circle. The southern limit of the Southern Pacific Ocean is the Antarctica Circle. Thus, to the north of Antarctica Circle, there are three southern oceans, but to its south, the water of the South Pacific Ocean, the water of South Indian Ocean, and the water of South Atlantic Ocean is present, which is collectively called Southern Oceans, and it is Southern Oceans which comprises the water of three oceans of South Hemisphere, and the circumpolar Antarctica current moves in it.